How's it going, everybody? It's Matt from Casually Crafted 3D, and obviously today we have IBIS. I finally finished my IBIS kit. So as of this video being uploaded, this should be available for for physical purchase on my shops, and it will also be available on Patreon for now, just early for like the files for the members. It will be all the files will be uploaded on Cults probably in about a week or so. So keep an eye out on that. Before we get too far in the video, I wanted to shout out. Obviously, you saw at the beginning the title card. I'm thanking all of my patrons now. Thank you so much for everyone on my Patreon. They're helping make this possible so that I can continue making really cool stuff like this. If you are on Patreon, then you already know that I have posted a poll for you to vote on, and there you can also vote as a free member, by the way. You can vote on the next project, which has already been decided is going to be an AC frame. So go ahead and go over there, check out my Patreon and vote, 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 vote. Higher tiers have more voting power, of course, but it's not required. You can check out the free tier and still have your voice heard. But without further ado, we have IB-01 CEL 240, or IBIS. Infamous boss that forced so many people to rage quit the game multiple times in Armored Core 6. So this thing is in 30-minute mission scale, which is roughly 170 scale. So it's pretty big from wing to wing. It's about 18-ish inches wide. It's quite tall. It's about a foot tall with, to the wingtips. Maybe about 10 or so inches tall to the head. But it's quite large. It's quite a big kit. This thing was quite a bit of work to actually get both designed and assembled. I mean, it is obviously a very thin, spindly model or frame per se, with the reverse joint legs, or the really wonky reverse joint legs, by the way, because they're not necessarily like your standard digitigrade. The thighs, because they go back and then reverse into the ankle, it's like a strange type of weird reverse joint type of deal. So it's quite difficult to actually get standing. But as you can see, it is standing just fine on the turntable. I don't trust it that much standing here, to be honest, so I'm definitely nervous it's going to fall over while I'm recording. This thing is definitely meant to be on a flight stand. I would definitely recommend that you put yours, if you get one or you make one, on a flight stand. It looks incredible on it, and it's a lot more stable. The wing binders are a little on the heavy side, but they are mostly hollow, so it can actually hold poses decently well, as you will see. I guess I will start this by showing you off some of the other pieces that I made for it. So, as you see, the hands there, they are just like the fists. I also made different hand options for, like, here is the relaxed hands. It's kind of like relaxed hand pose, or relaxed posed hands, rather. So I made those, and then I also made, let me find it in my parts bin, wherever I put it. I also made and of course I dropped it, I'll just show one. The kind of splayed out hand at like an angle, like an expressive hand, for like when it's shooing away all the bits. Speaking of bits, I have two different kinds of bits that I've made. I have made the closed bit with like all the fins closed together, and all of these are going to be attachable with a 1mm wire if you make it at full scale, and then they will have these little posts which will plug into the base, which I'll show shortly. But that is the closed version of the bit, and I made the open version of the bit. Same thing, attached to a wire into this thing that will put on the base. My camera will focus. But I have also made some effect parts for the arms, because the thing that always killed me the most with these was the damn swords that came out of those forearms. So I made those. I made some nice effect parts, nice red effect part. That these gray pieces here will just swap with those gray pieces on the undersides of the forearms, so you can put the effect parts in there. And they are quite large. I made them just a little bit taller than IBIS itself, just because I thought that it should be pretty long, because in the game, when it's throwing the moonlights at you, it is quite large. Other than that, I have also made some display stand adapters. There is actually underneath the waist, I'll show in a little bit, there's a little standard, I think I made it like 3 millimeter, I want to say, post hole. So you can put this on basically any Gundam type display base, but this thing is very large, so it's going to need to be kind of a big base. So I kind of made my own. So I have a couple of different adapters here. These both plug into the back of the torso for a little bit more stability on the actual, like, you know, main section of it, because if you plug it into the base there, you see it, like, the waist is very thin. I'd be worried that it would wear over time. So I made them so they plug in underneath the main booster here. So I have two different kinds. I have this one with a larger post here, which is meant to plug into my action base. I'll show you here in a bit. And then I have this version here, which has, again, another, I believe I made it 3 millimeters. This is meant to plug into a standard action base. And those will just plug in underneath the torso, like I said. But his, or her, rather, I don't know why we always call it her. I guess it's because of the feminine look to it. But I've also made a, like I said, a display base of my own. So this is the big base that will be included with it. And let me just separate this arm here. So basically, this arm piece will be able to plug into any of these big holes, the larger holes that are all around the base. And then all of the smaller holes here will be for the bits to plug into. So you can get this whole dynamic thing, which I'll hopefully show here in a bit. But this base is completely, it's essentially modeled after the official Bandai bases. So basically there's a little retention piece here that you can unplug and plug back in that allows you to switch whichever setting that you want that's actually on this attachment point here, and same thing up here. But this part is freely rotating because you have this kind of stability or stabilizer, which you can put at any of these little slots here to set it at any height that you would like it to sit at. Alright, so now that she is pulled off of my rotating base, we're going to briefly talk about some articulation. Now, I feel the need to mention, just because this thing seems to have kind of exploded a little bit in anticipation. I've had quite a few people ask when this is going to be available. So, in case you are unfamiliar with any of my work, this is not a toy. It is not a toy. It will never be a toy. I never make toys. I will never make toys. This is meant to be put on a shelf in a pose that you like, probably glued together, so that it looks good next to your other stuff. You will never be able to play with this like you can Bandai's 30-minute mission model kits or whatever. This is not meant to be played with. So don't buy it to play with it. Don't buy it for your kids. Don't do that. This is meant to, it's a collector's item. It's meant for you to build up and paint and make it look nice. So just being 100% clear, transparent, and truthful, this is not something for beginners. That being said, let's talk about some articulation. So I'm going to try to punch this in a little bit more because this thing is quite large. But we're going to start down here. Let me pick it up. We're going to start down here at the feet. Being very gentle with it. So the feet have a whole bunch of different points of articulation. There is a point right here in the toe, which allows it to bend forward and back. There is an articulation point here at either side of the heel on this pin, which allows those to angle in and out. And then the fins are also at a rotation point here. So I'll briefly show that. So these are able to move up and down. The toes here are able to move on that little pivot right here. And sorry, those are the heels. And the toe itself is able to move on that pin here. So you can get it set up in whatever way to like look natural flying as you want. There is also a ball joint recessed inside here for the first section of the angle, and there is a rotation joint right here below this gray section here, which can move in and out. I'm sorry, I got glue all over my hands and paint from when I was painting this thing, so just ignore all the gunk on my hands. The knee here, up in here, this section is on a pin, and so the whole leg here can rotate quite a bit out. So it can go out about that far, and it can go in quite far as well, about that far. There is a ball joint up here in the hip, so you can move that however you want to. Now, depending on if you glue yours together or not, I definitely recommend that you do. This right here would have been a rotation joint up above this light gray piece, so it would have been able to rotate around all the way. I glued mine together because I wanted the hips to be a little bit more stable. Here at the waist, there is 2 pins on either side of this little gray piece here. One that goes into the torso and one that goes into the waist, which allows you to rotate that around however you need. Up here in the head, there is a ball joint, so you can move the head however you want to attach to that ball joint. Same thing here. Another joint that I definitely recommend gluing together once you find the pose that you like. In these inner sections of the arms, deep recessed in here, are ball joints. This will allow you to rotate and move the arm or the upper section of the arms up and out and however you want to, and back. It's got quite a bit of motion, but because of how heavy the binders are, it can be a little much on that, so they droop after a while. So I went ahead and just glued mine in this pose, but that is a point of articulation that you can have. Now, the binders themselves, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with these. So there's a ball joint recessed up inside the binder here, which allows you to move these up and around however you want to, and actually it just popped off. But see that ball joint right there? That's how it will be able to move around. The binder itself has a recessed section up in here that allows this whole section here to rotate out. This little fin here is on a pin, so that you can move that in and out, move it out of the way, show some detail in there. And then this lower fin here is able to move up and down on that pin. And I suppose I could probably show underneath it so you can see some of the details. But that's able to move. But with those joints, you should be able to really move these like all kinds of ways. Now, the shoulder, I'm actually going to pop the binder off. Maybe not. There you go. I'll pop the binder off so I can show the shoulder. So there's a rotation point here, right next to that ball joint, which allows you to rotate the arm around all the way. And there's another swivel right here built into the shoulder, which allows you to get it out all the way. And then it rotates here below the shoulder. At the bicep, it's a little seized up. There you go. So it can rotate here for some more posing. The elbow joint here, it's kind of a recessed elbow joint. This gray piece is actually recessed on the inside of the forearm, but that will allow you to get obviously about that far back, and you can bend the elbow about that far forwards. Not a lot, not a huge amount, but I feel like that's enough to get you whatever posing that you need. And then the hands, they are on little pins, so they can rotate around, or of course you can just pull it off and swap it out with any of the other hand options that I have. So you can do that. Now, the blade part here, this part is what you will pull off. You pull that gray section off. So you pull that section off, and then you take the effect parts and you plug them up into the forearm like that to get the big moonlight beam on there. So yeah, so it's got a decent amount of articulation. Should be plenty for you to pose this thing however you desire, however you want, and should look pretty good, pretty imposing next to all the 30-minute mission kits, especially. And speaking of being on a base, here we go. Here is probably the pose that everybody wants to see. There is IBIS on the flight stand with all of the different bits arrayed around it. So obviously I've got the closed bits in the back. There are 8 of those, and then 10 open bits on the front. Now, of course, you can use clear wire if you want. All that I ended up having was this kind of like, it was like solder wire or something, so I ended up just using that. Like I said, it's just 1 millimeter, so you can use clear ones if you want to, like clear rods. Just has to be that right diameter. But yeah, as you can see, it looks a lot better on a base, in my opinion. I'll pan out all the way so you can see it in its full thing. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. All right, and let's do some size comparisons. Here is 30-minute missions Raven Nightfall. And here is, same thing, 30-minute missions Steel Haze Rusty. Here is 30-minute missions Michigan. And an Orbiter. How about some of my kits? So here is a guard mech. And here is a bipedal MT. And how about a drone and a helicopter? So there's some scale. All right, so that's going to do it for IBIS, IB-01 CEL 240 IBIS. So, obviously this thing has been a massive amount of work. It was kind of a pain in the ass to design, so 100% please like the video, subscribe, check out my other videos, check out my Patreon. Over on Patreon you have access to files early before anybody else does as far as the 3D files, and you actually have a say in what I make next. So if you like this kind of stuff and you would like me to make, say, the HC, the Ectromoy, the Cataphract, the blah, whatever you feel like you would like to see, join my Patreon, because that is how you decide what I make next. I post monthly polls. So this newest poll that should be up right now, as of the time of me posting this video, is the AC poll. So I'm actually choosing right now which AC I will be making. I'm going to be making a whole AC frame that'll be compatible with all the 30-minute mission parts. So check that out. Put your vote in. But IBIS, obviously this took forever for me to make. I know that I started telling people that I was making this probably about a month ago, I'd say, but I've actually been working on this for a little bit longer than that. I actually started working on this around the same time I started working on the Ghost kit, so I've been working on it for quite a while. But yeah, I think it's turned out pretty good. I'm not the greatest painter in the world, and I'm definitely not the greatest poser in the world either. So you can probably get this thing looking pretty good. I would love to see this in the hands of like an experienced, like professional painter and modeler. I feel like you could really do some cool stuff with this. So if for whatever reason you end up getting one of these, if you get one from me or if you end up 3D printing the files, absolutely tag me in it. I would love to see, and this goes for anything else that I make too. Absolutely tag me in it. I love to see the stuff that people make with my designs and with like my 3D print files and stuff like that. I love seeing it. I will never be annoyed by it. So please share it with me. But if you would like to pick up, if you'd like to pick up a physical copy of this, as me posting the video, there will be a shop link in the description, or if not a shop link, then it'll be in the link tree, which has a link to all my shops anyways. Just be warned, these things take me a long time to print, so there might be a little bit of a waiting period to get yours, but everyone will get one. Just be patient. Now, the 3D files, however, are currently available at the time of me posting this video. They are available on my Patreon early, so you can get the 3D files there. And they will be, about a week from now, they will be uploaded to Cults, so you can get the files there. But all of the other stuff that you saw when I was doing the size comparison of the other models, like the bipedal MT, the guard mech, all that, those are also available. They are available on my Patreon, but I think those are locked behind the previous month's tiers. Unless you're like one of the highest tiers, then you have access to it always. But they are also, the 3D files, they are available on Cults right now too, so you can check that out. And they are available physically as well, with the same place this is going to be physically available. So you can find everything that you need down there in that description. The Patreon link, the link tree, the shop links, all that. If you made it this far in the video, of course, thank you so much. A big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for supporting me and helping making this stuff possible. Also, thank you to everyone that's been showing up to my live streams. I plan to start streaming more and more as I can, so definitely keep an eye out for those announcements. I will start doing that a little bit more. But obviously, thank you for watching. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel. Check out my playlist that has all of my other kits that I've made. I've made videos on all those as well, so please check those out too. And of course, check the link in the description for all the shop links. And check me out on Patreon. It really helps out. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.